Fear is like a frozen lake. It's
Okay.
a mile wide, but only an inch deep.
How do you see that how you treat your employees will reflect on your customer?
We are going to make sure that the employees are going to be so happy with
Right.
their own life and their own job that when you walk in there, it's going to be infectious.
When you're building a strategy, involve your people, or strategy is done in a silo?
Culture trumps strategy 10 times out of 10, but your strategy is going to change all the time.
What is the mantra for the sports people to have that resilience so that salespeople probably can mirror that?
Best way to break free of that is just know that things are going to suck. You will fail.
What drives motivation?
I actually don't like the word motivation.
What do you think the entertainment industry is getting it right when it comes to storytelling?
What makes the difference when you're telling a good story or a bad story? I believe that that's authenticity.
Do you see a difference between the sales world competition and the sports competition?
Mainly because in sports, it's that team versus that team. In sales, yes, you will be against other companies, but a lot of the times, all your sales teams to compete against each other.
Entertainment, sports, business strategy. What does these three background really teach us about customer relationship and engagement? So they say that sales is all about relationships, but in today's world, it is also about experience. Experiences you create for your customers. Whether it's an entertainment or excitement of a championship race, the energy of a sold out stadium, or the immersive storytelling of a blockbuster film. Industries like sports and entertainment have really mastered the art of engagement. And there's a lot that sales professionals can learn from them. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Bert Grogor to Sales Igniter. Bert is a senior consultant with over 20 plus years of experience driving innovation and growth in motorsports and entertainment. That's exciting, right? His strategy is amazing, and we're going to hear a lot about that. He has led complex projects, implemented game-changing solutions, and helped brands stay ahead in competitive, high-stake environment. And a bit about me. I'm Leena Jayachandran. I'm a CEO and founder of Transdefy. We are a sales performance improvement organization. And for us, sales is not just about closing deals. It's about really building those relationships, building trust, delivering value, and creating meaningful connections that stand the test of time. And that's exactly what we do at Transdefy. We help get sales teams into the right conversations at the right time in the right way. So welcome, Bert. It's so amazing to have you here. And what really caught my attention was you come from a very fascinating background of entertainment, sports, business strategy. It's like, all of these three it's something very unique we have seen. And these three aspects or these three backgrounds actually talks a lot about customer relationship and customer engagement. I would love to hear from you to start off with, what does these three background really teach us about customer relationship and engagement? And we will dive into how this really connects with the sales world.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for having me. It's fantastic to be here and also on this platform speaking about sales. I think, we briefly spoke a little bit earlier that, sales is an everyday thing. It's not, people think that, I don't want to be in sales, there's a little bit taboo or they're a little bit afraid of it. But really, people don't know that they're selling every single day, So I think that's at the forefront, I think, what we're going to keep at the forefront of this conversation now. But really how sports, leisure, entertainment, sort of fits into all of that is that, for me personally, I love sports and entertainment because let's start with sports, it really brings people together to share a common sort of shared experience at the end of the day. Sports unites countries, so you'll see Pakistan versus India cricket, right? So normally they're not in great geopolitical terms, but when they get in the cricket field, it's just a completely different set of rules that they're followed by, and that's really what made me obviously growing up in sports, but really what made me continue push that into the business world.
Right.
I was one of those lucky people that was able to work in their passion, which was in sports and motorsports mainly, and which helped me, then come to Dubai. And Dubai is just like obviously a melting pot of different nationalities and different sports. And sports and entertainment is growing in this region. So it's fantastic to be part of the journey that this unfolds, So, yeah.
So how do you see that these industries really approach the customer relationship differently from what we see in the other industries? And what do you think that salespeople can learn from these industries?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, I think one example that comes to mind is I was hired by Al Ghurair Investments, one of Dubai's oldest families here, to launch their leisure and entertainment department. And Al Ghurair, fantastic company, but they sell properties, they sell energy, they sell food. And they said, okay, we as a transformational program, we want to sell leisure and entertainment. And we want to build a family entertainment center. How do we do that? And here I come and go, I can do it for you. Okay. Right, here we go. And what I found was, it was quite fascinating because the company has 10,000 people within the organization. And the moment this new entity was brought in, they said, hey guys, we have now a leisure entertainment department. What I found was all the internal departments wanted to work with me.
Amazing.
Wanted to work with us because they found it something quite exciting to be part of. And the reason I say that is because I firmly believe that, and this goes in sports and as well, but and EX equals CX, right? So employee experience is customer experience.
So how you treat your employees will reflect on your customer?
Yes.
How they treat their customers?
Exactly.
Wow, this is amazing. CX is equal to EX. Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I said is because they said, right, we want to launch this 40,000 square foot entertainment venue in 6 months. And here's your money, go make it happen. And do you think that I was able to do any form of strategy in that sort of time frame? Obviously
6 months is such a short time to build the whole thing.
So strategy out the window. Okay, there's no strategy. So what do you do, right?
Right.
So all I could really do was go, right, okay, we're going to carry on building this. We know what we're going to build. We know the concept, but how am I going to bring this alive? And the way that I did it was I hired good people at the front. So I had a really good manager. I had a really good HR team that helped me hire 40 people in the space of 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Wow.
But finding the right people was critical. Then I knew what culture can I instill super fast that's going to help me launch. And when I launch, we might not get it perfect, but we are going to make sure that the employees are going to be so happy with their own life and their own job that when you walk in there, it's going to be infectious.
Right.
Okay. So when a customer walks in, and even if maybe a ride didn't work or whatever the case may be, they're going to be so happy walking in there because we just see all authentic smiles, not fake smiles as you see it. Hello, welcome to this entertainment center.
Natural.
Like, no, they're going to see
from the heart.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest lesson. So I learned that culture trumps strategy 10 times out of 10. And while, yes, you need to have that vision, but your strategy is going to change all the time. That's always going to be a meandering thing as economic situations, macroeconomic situations, different things always happen that help you. But as long as you have that vision and that culture, for me, those are the two core elements that you can learn from, and that goes sports and business all together.
So would that mean that, like, what I'm learning or what I'm taking away from this conversation is, as sales professionals, you are not fighting the battle by yourself. You cannot win if you're fighting by yourself, right? And you have the shortest time to actually achieve those numbers, get your customer, fight with your competition, make sure that you're differentiating. If you collaboration is the key, which is like, how do you leverage different people within your ecosystem? And the same way, leveraging the people within your customer's ecosystem to make that one opportunity or one sale happen. So collaboration is the key, along with the vision that I want to go along with the people to make sure that I'm winning that game and not just winning that one. It's not me, but it's a complete team of people who makes it happen. So I guess that's what I'm drawing out of this conversation.
100%. And I'll take that one step further and let's analogize this. I think that's going to be the key word today. Analogize.
Yes.
Let's analogize this towards a motorsport this time. Okay. So let's say Formula One. People know Formula One the most. Okay. So we'll use that as a topic. In a Formula One team, it consists of usually the team principal,
Yeah.
right, who steers the direction of the team, just like you get a sales director who will
Right.
steer the direction of the sales team.
Right.
You will get the drivers, right, who are obviously operating. You will get the pit crews, you will get the engineers, and that's essentially, the same as what you get within a sales team is when you need to work together with your pit crew, you need to work together with your sales team, you need to work together with marketing, your customer success teams, all together in order to have a well-oiled machine to actually go out and compete.
Yeah.
So it's so similar,
Yeah.
a Formula One team to a sales team. Everyone has their positions that they need to play, and there'll be strengths and weaknesses within that you need to know, right? I need to put this salesperson in this role because he's a closer or she's a closer.
Yeah.
And then I need to put this driver into that car because I know this driver can win races from this position.
Yeah.
So the similarities are vast. And doing research on this topic, I just saw all these similarities all over.
Absolutely. I think it's a complete mirror, like what success looks like. Like you rightly, when you mentioned that keeping the right people at the right, it doesn't mean that they're not capable. It's basically that it is about how competent they are to play that role. So place them for that competency of theirs. So somebody who's actually, changing the tires, the competency is to have that in speed. When the Formula One, the speed of changing those 4 tires after 2 rounds or 3 rounds is what really drives the next lap. And which does not mean that the person who's changing the tires are not competent for something. I mean, that's their competency. So leverage that strength. So I think it all starts with people. Is that what would you say? It all starts with people and their strengths.
Everything. I would say everything starts with people because really that's it's your sales tool. It's your common denominator, right? Everything is people.
Yeah.
And especially nowadays in a world full of AI and tech, and it's becoming more and more important. Actually, not less important.
Yeah. So when you talk about people, which means that sales leaders, when they kind of define the team and the structure and the process, there's a lot of discipline, strategy, and a lot of motivation they need to have to make sure that aspect reflects in their salespeople. So do you see from your experience, whatever industry you've been in the in the business side, you've been in sports, you've been in entertainment. Do you see that when sales leaders are very focused on strategy and want to make that happen, not every time it becomes successful, or strategy is something where they, it's not a one-time thing, right? It constantly evolves. What would you say to the sales leaders that when you're building a strategy, involve your people, or strategy is done in a silo? I mean, how do you look at that?
That's always I suppose a difficult one to answer because every situation is going to be a little bit different. But I'll say what I would do is I would put mechanisms in place that would give me the data in order to make that strategy right. So whilst you can't involve everybody in the boardroom, as an example, to create the strategy, you need to know the data that's being fed to you in order to make the correct decisions that are going down to your team.
Okay.
So I definitely mean, yes, involve your team because they are the people on the ground giving you the correct data and the correct information, the correct real-world information that would help them then drive that strategy. And as we spoke about now, strategy is going to change all the time. But as long as everyone's singing from the same sheet and everyone's got the same sort of vision of the future, like for a motorsport team, like we want to win that championship because that's what we do, for our partners and stakeholders. Then from a sales team's perspective, we want to hit that revenue target because that's going to give us our commission. Yeah. Right? So they all go, right, okay, let's get in together and we all go towards the same denominator. Right. So vision's the most important. Strategy, how do you get there, is going to change all the time.
Right. And also transparency. Like you rightly mentioned, you can't bring everybody into the boardroom, but then communicating that to the team and taking their input actually drives that all together, like collaboration, as we said, together hitting towards the goal post, hitting that goal towards the goal post. That actually, brings me to another very interesting, curiosity, rather, I would say I'm very curious to know that in sports, the resilience is such an important aspect, right? It's so competitive. It's so competitive that, you're always on your toe. And how do you keep that resilience? I mean, how do you build that resilience? And sales people also go through the same pressure. Like they keep getting these rejections from their customers. They have internal clients, they have external clients, they have a lot of pushback from the internal clients more than the external clients, many a times, right? So how do they build that? Like, what is the mantra for the sports people to have that resilience so that salespeople probably can mirror that, and learn from that?
I love this topic. I think we can spend many podcasts talking about this particular topic. But first and foremost, I think sales, especially new salespeople, they almost equate getting in front of a stage, talking to people or other people. They equate it to the same fear of dying. Right. So the fear is real.
Right.
But an analogy that I love, I say analogy again, but a quote that I love by a guy called David Goggins. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
So David Goggins. He said, let me see if I can get this quote right. He said that fear is like a frozen lake. It's a mile wide, but only an inch deep.
Wow.
Right. So when you are standing there in front of all those people or in this big project and talk, all you can see is just an ocean and a sea of a frozen lake. The enormity of what you have to go through. Yeah. But without realizing, then if you just go through an inch deep, you're through the water and you're home free.
Wow.
And it's just about cracking that. All right. I'll say that's a first step. Is knowing that the awareness to know that you will get through this, right? And you just got to take that first step. Yeah. Secondly, from the resilience perspective, is sales is a war of attrition, right? It's an emotional game. You're up, you're down. You make a sale, you're like the top of the world. You lose a sale, you take it personally. It's a constant roller coaster, and that's not just from a junior sales role. That's from a high-level sales role as well, and that's a consistent theme throughout it. So going back to a David Goggins sort of mindset is the best way, I would say, to break free of that, is just to know that things are going to suck, right? Things are going to be tough. You will fail. That's going to be 100% certainty. You will get it wrong. You might not make any sales this month or the next 3 months, but it's just to know that you just need to keep going and learning and changing, and just know that if I make 100 sales calls this week, out of those I'll get 3 sales. And then you go, okay, next month I'm going to make 300 sales calls. Then I'm going to have 6. But then after some time, you're going to get better and better. And then that conversion rate's going to get better. Yeah. And you're going to make more sales. So it's just knowing that, just to know that the game here is not how many sales I can make. The game here is how long can I push on for without quitting, right? That's really what happens in sales. Yeah. Is just
how much can I push my limits?
How much can I push my limits? How much am I willing to learn and get better faster?
Yeah. So consistency is the key. And I think that drives to the point that discipline is such an important aspect. I have 100 contacts and I want to make 20 calls a day, out of which 3 I want to close. That calls for a large amount of discipline. And that calls a lot to do with motivation, like how much am I motivated enough to do that? So what drives motivation in that case in sports? Because when I see in the sales world, one thing, when you ask salespeople, what motivates you? They say incentives and targets and getting a better promotion. Yeah. But there's something, that I'm sure deep down, there's something which is motivating them. But from a sports angle, what keeps them motivated to really face that life and death? If you're talking about Formula One and these races, and it's life and death, right? Because there's a lot at stake. So
this is another interesting one. I actually don't like the word motivation.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay. And I'll tell you why. Let me see if I can get this right. Motivation to me is a fleeting commodity. It's not always there when you need it. Okay. Right? But what drives motivation, and you already mentioned it, is discipline. So when you can consistently do the hard things time and time again, that will get you the results. And you don't need motivation then. You just need to know that tomorrow morning, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go run 5 kilometers. Right. And the next day, even though it's raining and snowing outside, I'm going to do the same thing. And then after you know it, you've lost 5 kilograms and you're like, how did that happen? Yeah. You consistently did the right thing. And I think that's the same in sports and entertainment as well, really, is that, you got to be willing to put in the work and the disciplined work, and that goes into mindsets. Yeah. So how strong can you get your mindset to do? And the way you get your mindset is just doing the hard things first thing in the morning. That's why people are taking ice baths nowadays. Yeah. Doing the suckiest thing they can in the morning
and get it out. Yeah.
Because that puts you on the right mindset. So motivation for me is it's difficult. Imagine like you wake up in the morning and you go, I need to get up and run 10 kilometers this morning. But I look outside the window and I go, it's snowing and it's minus 20 and it's got rain, snow, horizontal rain or horizontal snow. And, motivation's only going to get you so far. It's going to get you to the front door and you're going to go, my bed's just over there. I'm just going to go back.
Exactly.
But once you've got that discipline and you've done it time and time again, I think you've obviously had NLP, neural people in your podcast before, so they can probably speak better on this. But you create these neural pathways in your head, which makes it easier for you to do those things time and time again.
Right.
So if you're in a sales team, you know that I made 100 calls yesterday. I'll do it easily again today because you've done it already. Your mind makes it's no longer a barrier. It's now, this is what we do. Right. And that's that's a mantra that I use actually. So thank you for that.
Okay.
It's like, this is what we do, or this is what growth feels like, are the two things that I say to myself. If I'm really struggling with something and I'm starting to make excuses, I go, this is what we do now. You wake up in the morning, I run 5 kilometers a day now. That's the person that I am. And when I feel like overwhelmed, I go, this is what growth feels like.
Right. And that's so much to do with self-awareness, and it's not because you're doing it for the organization, but you're doing it for yourself.
Exactly.
Rather than thinking, I have to get up and go to work. And I think there's another aspect to it, that how does the culture of an organization really motivate you? Motivation is, I like what you said, you don't like the word motivation because, but for the sake of, using that term, there's a lot of aspects which actually kind of culminates towards someone to take an action. But that self-discipline and wanting that, I want to push the boundaries and I want to grow, and not waiting for someone else to tell me or doing it for someone.
I think just to add to that, I think, you're right. Look, every person will have a different goal, a different agenda. They're at different times and stages of their life, so when you were a 25-year-old, you could work 16, 17 hours a day, and get up in the morning and go to gym.
Yeah.
But then as you get older, you realize, actually, I don't want to do that every single day. So you got to find the people in the right phase of their life for the right role that you want them to excel in as well.
Yeah.
And it just goes back down. This is an interesting topic. Have you read the book called The Sales Dogs?
Yes, I heard about it, and I heard about you saying this.
Yeah.
I would love to know. I haven't read it completely, but I've heard about it. I would love to know about it. You mentioned a great analogy, and it'll be great for the audience to hear about it.
So 2008, 17 years ago now, I arrived in Dubai, naive, the usual story. We're going to come here for 1 year and I'm going to leave and make my money.
It's the usual story, everybody, right, when they come here.
So I got here, and the first job I got was as a sales executive in a conceptualized flooring company, exactly 3 months before the financial recession. So great timing.
Oh, okay. That's a 2008 when the whole world crashed down.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So in trying to sell something new that no one had seen before, right? So I go, and I thought, how am I going to I don't know anything about selling. So what I learned very quickly was when I thought, I saw this book called
Sales
Dogs, and I thought, I like dogs. I got dogs, so what can go wrong? And that really opened up my eyes into what sales really was and how to apply it. And the way the synopsis of the book is that you have different types of dogs, like you have different types of sales dogs. So you get like a Pitbull, who's going to be your ruthless sales individual. He's going to get in there and he's going to do 1,000 calls a day, and he doesn't care about anything but just making that call, making that sale. That has a place, right? Then you get the golden retriever. The golden retriever is that dog who's going to go, love me, love me, love me. I'll love you back. I will be with you forever. And he's your nurturing sort of long...
Keeping that connection, relationship, and
he's
being
your
nice.
Partnership kind of salesperson. Typically, that lead takes a lot longer to get there. But once you get there, that lead will be a bigger lead than you've gotten, right? So that's your multi-million-dollar deals versus your Pitbull is going to be your 2,000, 1,000.
Short term,
Exactly.
Just get the kill. Go get that and close.
So there's two folds in that. So knowing who you are first, right? Know which sales dog are you. There's a lot more other sales dogs we can go. There's the Chihuahua. There's a lot of them, right?
I was just imagining all of that now. Like, which one are you?
Exactly, So knowing who are you, what kind of sales dog are you, and then as a leader, You look at as a leader, you need to know what type of sales dog your team is, so you know when to put them in the right situation at the right time. And that's really what helped me navigate that path when I first arrived in Dubai.
And did you realize which sales dog are you when you came in?
Golden Retriever.
Oh my God. Everybody
my
loves
wife will
to.
agree.
So the relationship person. Okay, that's
Yes.
brilliant. So that's a very interesting point. You said that, for the leaders to know who sits where. Again, it comes back to the people. You said that which person fits where, what are their competencies, and leveraging that makes a lot of sense in really driving the right sales culture and the sales. And I think it's a dominoes effect, right? It all starts with people. It's going back to that same point, which is very, very interesting. So I'm going to go and read that book, Sales Dog. Is it still available, or?
Yeah, definitely. It's
sure.
definitely still available, I think. But look, I read it before audiobooks and before, so there's a hard copy, but I'm sure you can get it on Audible.
Amazing. So I'm sure I'll put it out for the audiences as well, that let them go out there and look for that book, because it's very, very interesting. Coming to storytelling, entertainment industry, sports, I would say specifically entertainment industry is very, very good in storytelling. And there's so much of similarity in what we tell in the sales world, that when you talk to your clients, say or convey in the form of a story, because story sticks, right? So what is that the entertainment industry is really getting it right? We all remember good movies. We also remember bad movies, right? So what do you think the entertainment industry is getting it right when it comes to storytelling, and what are those aspects we as sales professionals can learn from that? Because everybody says story sells. If you can just give me.
This is another topic I love.
Okay.
And another topic we can have multiple conversations about, because I really believe that a good story is what drives any narrative and any sale. And politicians get that. The ones that get that
really
right.
Well, yeah.
Donald Trump, I love him, I hate him.
Yeah.
He drives a story, and that story is simple and it's clear, and people get on board with that, right?
Right.
Because he doesn't speak about I'm going to change all the world. He's going to go, Sarah in that corner over there, I'm going to make sure that Sarah gets a tax benefit and a tax break so she can go buy her car, or whatever that story is.
Yeah.
But how that relates in sports is extremely powerful. And you see it throughout the entire sports industry, especially mainstream sports. The narrative or the story of the underdog story.
Okay.
Right? So the underdog story, Leicester City Football Club, I think it was 2015. Going to have to fact check me on that. They had a 5,000 to 1 odds to win the Premiership Football League.
Okay.
5,000 to 1.
Okay.
Near impossible. And this is against all the giants, Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool.
Okay.
And they were nowhere. And for some reason, that year, they just won. They
Okay.
just completely won.
Wow.
So the underdog story came shining through from that.
Okay.
Another story that gets used a lot in motorsport is the rivalry story.
Okay.
Football and motorsport. So let's look at football. Messi versus Ronaldo.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Messi versus Ronaldo. How does that benefit the both of them is they push one another to be better and better and better.
Right.
So you
they're
can
not
use
competing, but they're literally
Exactly.
pushing each other. Yeah.
underdog story. Then you get the Michael Jordan Last Dance story. It's a legacy.
Okay.
So there's so many different ways to tie in a story and narrative selling. And I think that's what's so important in any organization is when things get a little bit too noisy, a little bit too intense, and you lose track of what's your next step. Always fall back to the story, because the story, as long as you have it, obviously is going to drive your next position, your next step. And that's really what I think is really key and important in anything like that. So lots we can talk about this on and on forever, but really the story is key.
I mean, interesting when you're saying even sports, when like entertainment industry, it sells on stories, because that's what the business is all about. The better they talk about the story, the better it sells. And we remember some of the best, even if it was seen about 30 years back, the movies, the way the dialogues, you don't forget the dialogues. The Titanic, you don't forget the dialogues, the way it was narrated. And that is why they say what's the difference between a good story and not so good story. And when you have that way of presenting to your clients about any solution or services, it sticks in their mind, and that's how you differentiate yourself. So I guess there's a lot to learn from the entertainment industry as to how,
Yeah, so I just sparked an thought there. I think really the theme for 2025 is authenticity. So when you're telling a story, what makes the difference when you're telling a good story or a bad story? I believe that that's authenticity. So anyone can tell you a story, but do they really believe that story? Is it really true to them?
Right.
And that's what shines through all the time.
Right.
Is authenticity is 100% key when telling a story.
Yeah.
And this is why now you're seeing all the top CEOs around the world, not just the Middle East. They're building their personal brand. They're telling their own story, because now all of a sudden the person's becoming a lot more powerful in the organization.
Right.
And by the person building up their own brand and profile by telling stories, the ones that really succeed are the ones who you can get that authentic connection from.
Right. Yeah.
And connection, I think, is key when telling the story.
I like the point you came up with, the personal branding. Do you see salespeople should invest in building their personal brand, because that drives credibility and trust? And do you see that happening a lot now or not happening? Because when I connect with a lot of sales professionals who've been in sales for 20, 30 years, I still don't see them on any of the platforms like LinkedIn. I don't see them on Insta. I don't see them on the social media. And I'm not saying that people who come on these platforms are supposed to be the best. But I'm saying, how do you let the audiences or people out there know about you? Knowing you is kind of one way of building trust, right?
Yeah.
So do you see that it's still not happening, or you see that there's a lot happening where personal branding is taken very seriously by salespeople, sales leaders, or is it something for only a few set of people? What do you see?
I think it depends.
Okay.
It depends on the industry.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, let's take property sales consultants. Having a personal brand would help you, right?
Okay.
And a few of my friends are doing it, because that's just another way to communicate to your target market, which is on social media. So they would benefit from a personal brand. So I would say in most cases, yes, they should be doing a personal brand. No, people are not doing it enough. But then you also get people that don't want to do it because they don't want to put themselves out there.
Yeah.
And maybe their sales role doesn't need them to do that, because they get proactive sales in, they're an order taker, and they execute. They don't have to go out and get the sales.
Yeah.
It happens proactively. If you want to reactive and you want to be proactive towards getting those sales, then I highly suggest get on LinkedIn, put content out, find your story, why you are unique in your particular field.
Yeah.
Because as we mentioned, there's so much noise out there in the world at the moment. And
too much
And
of
let's
data.
say your product is the same as your competitor's product. How is the customer going to know which one to go for?
Yeah.
Right? And so, but what's really going to make a difference is he hears your story versus the other story, and that one resonates with him or her.
Yeah.
And that makes, I'm going to buy from this person because I like his story or her story.
And saying a story based on the person whom you're talking to, and not having the same story to all of them, is also a key. If you're talking to finance, the story has to be different. But if you're talking to HR, the story has to be completely different, right? So I think that way also is a very important aspect. And I feel, coming back to the personal branding, I feel personal branding has a definition, which is, it's not a defined definition, right? This is what personal branding is. Personal branding is also to do with how you like to be seen by the people out there, because as a salesperson, they're the frontliners. And when you're going out there and having a conversation, because today everybody is on the digital media. So before even you go to your client's office or meet them at any, at a meeting point, they're already researching about you.
Yeah.
And if they don't see you, what is the perception you're creating? Because everything starts with trust. So when they meet you, that trust is built based on what they perceive about you and what they've heard about you and what they've seen about you. So I think somewhere I feel even, anybody out there who's connecting with clients should probably think about building their own personal brand in whatever small or bigger way. I just thought it could be very, very important, because in sales specifically, it's such a critical aspect.
It definitely is. And funny, I just thought of another thing years back now. So I used to work for a digital marketing agency, which I helped co-found with a partner of mine, so Create Group, a very successful digital marketing agency now. And they've gone from strength to strength. But I remember back in the early days, We walked into Damak Properties as a salesperson. I met the marketing director at a Christmas party, and he said, "Hey, we're pitching for social media. Come and pitch." So when we walked in there, the CEO was there. Actually, he was a managing director. And we're trying to pitch social media in 2013, 2012, completely like unknown, and brands at that time were afraid to get onto social media. They were too afraid to go, right, we don't want to open ourselves up to all the scrutiny, and like, why would I do that?
Okay.
And so my partner Tom had a great response to that. He's like, Mr. I can't remember his name now. But the brands are talking about you anyway. Just want to know, do you want to be part of a conversation or not?
Or not.
Sold. We got the deal.
I like that. It's such an important thing. They're anyway talking. They're anyway looking up for you. So you better be a part of the conversation.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
Brilliant. I love this. I'm loving this conversation. And one part which I would also think about was competition. We touch upon storytelling. We spoke about personal branding. Sports is known to be the most competitive place, right? Once you're on the field, it's like how you're actually pushing your limits and making sure that, you're focused on getting your, making those runs or hitting the ball. Sales is also pretty competitive. That field is so competitive. I mean, do you see some similarities from the sports competition versus the sales world competition? And what could be the similarities and what do you think can be learned, healthy competition rather, I would talk about.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare yourself to be really, ethically competitive then?
I like that.
Yeah, because they say, right, as a sports person, the discipline you're creating, and that's what makes you a sports person.
Yeah.
People look up to you not because you won or lost.
Yeah.
It's about the discipline, the motivation, and you being very ethical about what you're doing. So, I wanted to hear about that. What can salespeople learn out of that? And do you see a difference between the sales world competition and the sports competition?
I see a difference.
You do?
I do see a difference. Mainly because in sports, it's that team versus that team.
Right.
It's head to head.
Yeah.
Right. It's 11 players in football, 11 drivers. It's 20 drivers against other 20 drivers. In sales, yes, you will be against other companies, but a lot of the times it depends on the company. You might have a sales leaderboard where culturally you want to create that competition.
Okay.
Right? You want to go, okay, we're going to put everybody's names on the board and employee of the month. So you are setting that narrative. You're setting that pretense that you want all your sales teams to compete against each other. Okay. That will work for some. It'll work for your sales dogs, your Pitbulls.
Yeah.
Right? They will win.
They get aggressive and they'll go for it.
Exactly.
But the golden retrievers will have a problem.
This seems like a waste of time. I'm going to do things a little bit smarter, and I'm going to go for the long game. So whilst your leaderboard will only show me month 1 and 2, let's talk again at the end of the year when I strike up that $2 million deal and I'm the top of the leaderboard. Yeah. But, I'm not going to get involved in that. So it really depends. But ultimately, competition is always in a bit of sales. There's always that nuance of the competition. Right. It just depends on if you want to enforce it. Right. And if you want to make it a pro, or is always that going to become a hindrance in your team and creates a bit of a unhealthy culture. So you've got to be very careful with competition within your own organization.
You need to choose what kind of competition are you creating, and so that you can have a healthy, team engagement and collaboration. Because that again, so if a golden retriever is demotivated, it can go and sit in the corner, not too much because it's not motivated enough. Because the nature of that person is to build relationship, long-term sales cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll give you another example, going back to property. And a friend that I heard say this just a couple of weeks ago, she's left an organization now because the competition was so siloed within their own organization that nobody wanted to share data with them and share with this. I've got this connection who's looking to buy a house there, but I don't want to introduce him to you because I want to keep that sale for myself and the commission to myself. Right. Versus now she's gone to another organization selling homes, and they openly share commissions. Okay. So it really that's an example of a organization that's doing competition, but it's negatively affect them, at least from a people perspective. Right. Whether that's affecting them on a revenue perspective, I don't know. So it's important to differentiate the two.
Okay. So when we talk about competition and when we talk about pushing the limits and one thing which comes into my mind is as athletes or sports people, if it's a team game, they're very clear about whom they're going to pass the ball because, again, leveraging on each other's strengths because that strategy is already built.
Yeah.
So how important is humility in sales? I mean, again, it comes back to collaboration, but is that a very important aspect where sales professionals should have in them, and that should be the mindset? I think in a very different way, but I would love to hear from you because you come from the sports background, and how does it really help you to be really leveraging your teammates' strengths? One is from a leader's perspective, and leader decides, leader sees that this person has this strength, and so I'm going to place him or her in this position, and then I'm going to kind of work as a team. But as team members, do you see that it's very, very important for them to actually leverage that? And how do they actually cultivate that mindset?
So for them to stay humble.
They say, for them to stay humble. I mean, do you have to, is it a mindset issue, or is it, again, does it come as competition, being competitive,
Yeah, that's interesting. I think the way that only way I can sort of answer that question is the way I am. And because it's a very personal thing for people to do. And yes, you can have a culture of humble staff, working for you, and you can foster that. But really, I think for me, being humble is important. I think because nobody wants to sell from, buy from somebody they don't like, and you can generally pick on that. It comes back to authenticity.
Right.
You're not humble, but are you authentic in the way you're not humble? Are you authentically humble? Because if you're humble but you're fake, that's also not a good thing. So it really is.
People can find it out if you're fake, right? So
so I think it's not an easy answer. I think there's lots of different ways you can go with that. I think it has a place to be humble. I think as a person you should be humble, and I like to think I'm humble, but I know that I'm highly empathetic.
Okay.
Right. So I know as a leadership style, whenever somebody asks me, I'm an empathetic leader. Because I feed off energy, so energies are typically something that I'm affected by a lot, and I know that empathetically that's my leadership style, and humbleness sort of comes as a byproduct of that.
Okay. That actually is a part of the whole process and not just one aspect. Like humbleness comes as a part of being empathetic as well. So if you have to pick 3 things from entertainment and sports, and that relates, and which salespeople should actually look at it very seriously and imbibe those characteristics, what could that be from entertainment and sports?
Yeah, I think, it might be a good summary of our chat, really. So I think most importantly is to have a vision, all right? So the vision of the future. There was a very good workshop we did in Algeria where John Isifiris, the group CEO, did an amazing little trick, if you want to call it that. He projected a hologram of himself, just like we're sitting like now, and he had a conversation with his future self, and you got to ask your future self questions, and we got to watch it unfold in real life. And that really helps you paint that picture of the vision of the future of what's where you want to go and how you want to get there. So number one, vision is definitely the most important. Discipline would be number 2, as we spoke about, because you won't get anywhere without discipline. The war of attrition will wear on you, and how much do you want it at the end of the day? And I think most importantly, to be truly successful, you've got to, I wouldn't say love what you do, because I think that phrase is overused. I wouldn't say you don't have to love everything what you do, but you have to be fulfilled in what you do, to be truly happy, but also truly successful. So those 3 together, I would say, relates 100% to sports, but also 100% to personal and business as well.
And not only for salespeople, I think it kind of resonates with everybody. And we're, like we were discussing behind the scenes, right? We are all salespeople at some point in time. We're trying to sell an idea. We're trying to, emphasize certain things. And they're being, transparent, trustworthy, honest, really expressing in a form of a story. I mean, that's something which I always take away from this. I want to take away from this conversation as well. So vision, you said,
Discipline. Discipline as well.
Discipline,
Yeah.
very, very critical.
Yeah.
Discipline, doing some things consistently,
Yeah.
so that becomes your habit and behavior. And self-motivation. I mean, I love what you said. It need not be that you're overly loving what you do, but then being conscious about what you're doing and, giving it your best.
Yeah.
So I think that's the third critical part. And I would add storytelling to it, because stories always stick. And today they say, right, in the data explosion, the content out there on the digital platform, what sticks in your mind is the videos, the 30 seconds reels, or the way you convey the specifics what you're talking about. So stories really stick for your clients as well. So it's been great, Bert, having a conversation with you. Would love to have a lot more episodes, having much more discussions on entertainment and sports. And let's, for our audience, there's a lot of takeaway from sports and entertainment for the sales professionals. We're going to bring in such trailblazers, such visionaries into our podcast. And keep tuning into Sales Igniter. We're going to ignite conversations that really matter.